All right, welcome, good evening, and welcome to the Refinery. It is November 18th, 2014. This is the place where grassroots groups come together, try to figure out how to talk, explore the best ways to discuss the conservative message and get it to reach people. I'm really not talking so well today. It's been a long one. Anyway, this is the inaugural episode that is going to be syndicated on Vigilant Liberty Radio. This is news that Felicia and Taylor will be explaining and describing a little bit more here in a minute. But since this is the very beginning and nobody's heard from us before or knows who we are, what we're all about, thought we'd spend a minute and a half on some introductions. What we are here at the Refinery is we're three grassroots conservative organizations, and we've been meeting weekly for most of this year, working together to find some solutions to broaden the conservative tent, make conservative messaging work, and work better. So what we are is, like I said, three wonderful organizations. I'm Leslie Price. I'm with the Conservative Union. Our logo is that torch. We're the largest conservative political organization on Google+. We have about 6,700 members, very active community, 50, 60 posts a day, lots of conversations. And we also have a blog that if you're watching this episode live on YouTube, you see conservativeunion.net is our blog that we have, and we do have Facebook and Twitter accounts that just sort of announce things too. Also with the Conservative Union here today, we have Ryan Bickmore. Ryan, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Because this is going to be audio, people aren't going to be able to see your lovely little picture. And then the second organization that we have is the Party of Choice, and that's Corey and Andy. Take it away, Corey and Andy.
All right, thanks, Leslie. Yes, so we're the Party of Choice, and if you are a conservative, you are already in it. You see, conservatives want people to have more choices, more freedoms, whereas liberals want to take choices away from people and control their lives. So what we do at the Party of Choice is train conservatives to explain their beliefs using a choice versus control perspective, which makes us the good guys and the left the bad guys, and it works really well with independents and young people because they don't always understand liberty. It's kind of an old-fashioned word. Freedom is a little fuzzy. Sometimes they don't understand when their freedoms are slowly being taken away. But choice is an instant thing that people can identify with because they know the second a choice is taken away.
That's what we do.
Sorry, I didn't know if Andy was going to say something.
No, you did great.
And then our other fantastic friends are Free Radical Network with JD and Fishy.
Yay!
I guess I'll take it away. I'm JD, not Fishy. Fishy has yet to speak. Free Radical Network. We're a group that we want to bring together, just sort of like the Party of Choice, the various groups, the various facets of conservatism, and understand that, hey, you know what, we don't have to always agree, but we need to get stuff done. We need to realize that. We have an enemy to go up against. We have this statist, scary, liberalism that is just crushing us, and we have to realize that together. Don't get comfortable is a mindset that we need to remember. Something that we can't just be. Oh, well, I'm going to stay in my little group, my little milieu, and only talk to my friends. You have to get out there. You have to branch out, because if we don't get out there, then how is anybody going to know about our ideas? How is anybody going to know about what we think is important and about liberty? Fishy?
Well, right, and we also really like promoting and cross-promoting with other groups and other conservatives that we like. A lot of people whose voices aren't heard so much. They're not exposed as much. They don't have ties to a larger blog or connections through the movement to really get their voices out there. And so we try to be a little bit of an amplifier for those blogs and those shows and those videos as well. Which is really going to lead into our big guest today. We have been friends with Taylor Millard, iDesert Blog on Twitter, for quite some time and have shared each other's pieces, have promoted each other. JD and I have both been on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge or The Right War, the two shows that Taylor is involved with. Quite some time, and we never returned the favor. And poor Taylor was feeling a little left out, and we felt this would be a great occasion to bring him on because we have finally finalized a deal. All the papers have been signed. Everything is in the bank. We are, as of this episode, going to have the Refinery broadcast after the show on Thursday. We'll have it broadcast on Vigilant Liberty Radio, which is an internet, show radio new venture that is a year old as of this past weekend. And Taylor is program director and host and producer and wears a lot of hats. And we were dying to get him on so we could talk about this. And what this means for the Refinery is that it will be available on YouTube. We will still have our clips available, but the audience at Vigilant Liberty Radio will be able to access the podcast from us on Thursdays, and then also all of our folks who it's a little hard maybe for them to watch 2 hours at a time, but they can listen to a podcast while they're driving or things like that. We'll have a podcast available. We'll be able to share that. So another cross-promotion venture. We have joined the Vigilant Liberty Radio family. We are so excited. And with that, we're going to introduce Taylor.
Well, I'm very happy to have you guys joining us on VLR. I mean, as I've said before, y'all do really good stuff with the Refinery and with the not only just with the Refinery, but with the stuff at Free Radical Network, the stuff at the Party of Choice, the stuff at Conservative Union, and that was really why we wanted you to be part of this. Is the idea of, hey, fusionism, the idea of, hey, everybody getting together, we are a big tent, and Liz Harrison, who a lot of people know at Goldwater Gal, she is the primary founder of Vigilant Liberty Radio. As we were coming up on a year, we were kind of discussing, hey, are we going to expand it all? Is that kind of going to happen? And it was like, we do want to expand, and it was kind of like, all right, so Taylor, I've got some things I'm working on. You try to find some people, and so that's why we've got now the Refinery being on. We've got two conservative lesbians, Meredith Ancret and Erica Drayton, are now on the station as well. And we've got some other stuff coming in, so it's all about bringing more people in, especially because VLR tends to come from more of a libertarian standpoint. It just kind of happened that way. And so we now get the chance to bring more people in and have more voices, and there's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, it's great. And one of the things that we've always talked about at Free Radical Network, and I know that this has been a true value of the Party of Choice and the Conservative Union as well, it's sort of why we become such good partners, is the focus on solutions. And that gives us the opportunity to talk solutions with another audience that we haven't been able to reach yet, and bring ideas up that maybe people haven't considered from a perspective that maybe doesn't come from where some of the other hosts and shows on VLR is where they come from. And so we're excited to be thrown into the mix and be able to talk those issues, and knowing that everyone that's been involved has been so kind, so generous, but also not the fire-breathing, fighting, infighting sort of people. The sort of folks that I've encountered at VLR, and I know I speak for JD too, have been the kind of people who've typically been very open to new ideas, very open to discussion. They like having the conversations about things rather than just reacting to things. And we're really hoping to bring that from our perspective in too, and throw all those ideas together.
Well, you can only do so much reacting. I mean, a lot of people like to react because it's easy to react. It's something that my dad and I have had this conversation on a regular basis, which is, when you're dealing with something, you can either respond or you can react. And with the response being that, okay, that tends to be a little bit more thoughtful, a little bit more, okay, a little bit more calm, a little bit more, hey, we're not going to go insane about stuff. So that's why it's really important to respond instead of react. And yeah, react may get you, hits. It may get you, people really enjoying, your work, saying, oh yeah, it's exactly right. Snark is really fun these days, it seems like, but there's a lot more than that. And I think that's what's really important, and that's what people miss sometimes.
Yes, the sort of bluster in lieu of real strategies and solutions is kind of, an overpopulated market, excuse me, in the conservative movement right now. There are a lot of people who are big on the outrage and are big on the, these evil, terrible people are evil and terrible, so we must denounce them, and they should feel bad, and they're horrible people, and we're better people, when really we need to focus on figuring out how to get the people who we disagree with closer to us, and how to make our sell our product better, how to sell liberty better, how to get out there and make sure that people understand that conservatism isn't this, scary, weird, disgusting thing that the liberals make it out to be. It's not this patriarchal, white, old thing. I don't know, monster from the swamp.
Andy, sure, is a monster from the swamp. Patriarchal, old. Yeah, he's that, but and he'll tell you that I can say that because he's several states away from me, and I have no fear, because he's in the frozen wastelands of Colorado right now. But yeah, for me. It's all about messaging and finding the right way to use what we know from advertising and marketing and sales and bring that to the political arena. That's so rarely done. And it's so rarely done that people take a tactical or a strategic approach to trying to achieve their goals or even determine what their goals are. They're just fixated on reacting. They're going to click, they're going to holler, they're going to yell, they're going to forward that picture. And that's fine. That's the bulk of what people do when they engage politically. But we have to be the ones, if we're going to be producing the messages or if we're going to be creating the content that we want them to click on and forward, we need to be a bit more thoughtful about what we're producing so that what they're resharing and what they're saying amen and right on is a message that we want them to share out.
Well, let me ask you guys something, because you talked about messaging and you talked about, looking at things that happen and looking at, maybe not just putting out that picture, maybe putting out thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Isn't there a way that you guys can put together thoughts and ideas in a picture that make people sit there and go, oh, I never thought of it that way? Or because of the short attention span that's out there that people have, you can't always do that because you've got like 15 seconds to hook them, and if you don't hook them in 15 seconds, they're gone.
Well, actually, it's funny that you should mention that, because we have done that, and that's something that we've actually worked on. We here at Conservative Union, I can't remember what it was, what particular scandal it was, but there was something that we got to see a whole lot of really reactionary pictures.
Yeah, I'm visualizing the bumper sticker with Obama's face and sunglasses, and there was.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the.
What was
like
the slogan?
It was like a boss.
It was Obama being like a boss, right?
Yeah, and we got to see a lot of marginal efforts at best when it comes to flipping that meme on its head. But we actually came up with something that got a lot of likes, a lot of pluses on Conservative Union. I don't want to take any credit for it because it wasn't me, but
Actually,
But
it was all of us. You know, when that like a boss meme first came out and showed up on Twitter, and then of course you see and it was put out by OFA like they normally do, and then as always happens on Twitter, the conservatives take over the liberal memes and they take over it with jokes and they make fun. But it was all jokey and snarky and stuff, and it just happened to be a day that quite a few of us were sort of available, and we have a private community of the moderators of the conservative union, and we tossed out some ideas. How can we participate in this making fun project but do it in a more pointed way of bringing up how Obama is listening in on your phone calls like a boss, to not just make fun of Obama, but to take the opportunity of making fun of Obama and remind people of explicitly some of the things that Obama and the left are getting wrong, and and make fun of them in a more pointed way that wasn't so mean and snarky. It was more thoughtful, and that was fun because it came together so quickly and everybody just jumped on it. It was like, oh well, this is cool, yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That makes total sense to do. And I think that being able to look at being able to look at issues and discuss issues without just being snarky, I think that that's something that's very important. And it's not always easy to do, I think, because it's easy to be snarky. It's easy.
And it's
I mean,
fun to be snarky.
yeah, it's fun to be snarky. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy being snarky on Twitter as much as possible sometimes, but you can only do so much before it just becomes snark, 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 and whatever you were wanting to do.
And who are you really persuading with that? How are
Exactly.
you moving the needle? You're entertaining yourself. Fishy likes to use the term self-indulgent, and it really is self-indulgent. There's a different term that I tend to use, but it's less PG.
It's probably
Yeah.
the same term that I want to use for the Dallas Stars right now because they were up 2-0 and now they're down 3-2. JD is shaking his head because he knew I had to bring him up at some point, right?
yes, it was going to happen. If Taylor is on the show, then the Dallas Stars will be. Yeah. What Leslie's saying is absolutely correct. We lose sight too often of who our actual audience is, who we need to be persuading. The people that most of our snarkiest messaging goes to, the stuff that the people who respond to that the most in a positive way are already they're already on our side. There are already people who are going to vote Republican generally. The people who we really need to get, the people who we need to persuade, get turned off by a lot of that stuff. Get turned off by a lot of those messages that are over. Well, I don't want to say overly, because for sure the liberals deserve it, but there's a point where we don't get the return on investment for other people, for bringing in people into the party, or bringing in people to at least realize that we are reasonable folks. We are not extremist whack jobs.
We have become, I'm afraid we on the right have become almost wholly dependent upon the left pissing people off more than we do to win elections. And that's ridiculous. And I mean, we almost entirely write off young people. This is why we in the Party of Choice always tell people, look, the first central part of the conservative message should be these simple words: I want to control my own life, not yours. Young people love it. And just build all your beliefs around that. What are your politics? My politics are I want to control my own life, not yours. I know they're two different sports, Taylor. That's why I'm always guaranteed to be right on that, pretty much.
Yeah.
But we on the right, we have forgotten the fact that the reason we're disliked, especially by young people, is that they look at us and they view us as the side that wants to that disapproves of them and wants to tell them how to live their lives. Okay? They see us that way, even though it's the Democrats overwhelmingly who want to tell them how to live their lives. And so we have to being snarky and insulting people and all that, that's kind of fun, but we just look like people who are trying to copy the mood of Comedy Central rather than actually win people. And we're not going to win them until we show them that, look, they do want to control your life. I don't. I want to unleash you. I believe in you. They don't. They want to herd you like cattle. They don't trust your choices. They don't trust the choices of others. They believe this person makes too much, that person makes too little. This person should pay for that person's choices. This person should live that way. This person is drinking too much soda. That person is doing this. We want you to live your life, and here's how. We do that, we can break through. But it's got to be one single focused message.
Well, don't you?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, don't you also think that it's important to be authentic at the same time? Because some of the times when, at least I see the Republican Party try to do messaging, it comes off as so hackneyed.
Right.
And just so that's, so late 1990s or mid 1990s instead of something that people, who are younger would actually understand.
But think about it, Taylor, why do we come off so hackneyed? Because we don't relate to them. Okay? We don't relate to them.
And we have terrible consultants who say, get hip with the young people these days, be a real cool cat, etc.
I would never do that unless I was paid like one of them. And I would.
Well, yeah.
So, then I would sell out. I would dress like them. I would. I would go the whole. No, I'm kidding. But look, the reason we come off so hackneyed is because we don't sincerely feel for them. We look at them. We look at young people. We look at a lot of people, because it's not just young people who feel this way about us. It's all people. They grew up and they're still voting. We look at people and we say, if you don't live like me, you are bad. All right? Now, we don't use government to force everyone to live like us, at least nothing like the left. But 47%, good point. But that's how we lose them. And then when we try to come out with this feel-good, happy messaging, we come off as totally fake, plastic, because we don't believe it. We believe the message. We don't believe in them, and we don't believe the message sells.
Well, and I think the other thing that we make the mistake on is we love our charts and graphs, and we've usually got a whole briefcase of them under our arms. And so we're really excited to whip those out at the first opportunity and overwhelm the person. But why don't we just put them away and ask the person, what do you think about this issue, and listen first.
But I have all of these facts, and you can't. I have incontrovertible proof that I'm right and you're wrong and you're an idiot for not understanding that I'm speaking the truth here. So you should just go away and not vote and let us be in charge because we're right and you're wrong. That's the big problem.
Yeah, and something it's something that even folks in the liberty movement run into. I mean, I have a friend who thought that the best way he thought that in his perfect society, he would do a caste system. He would do a caste system, and I pretty much, I see everybody putting their hands over their heads and stuff like that. I lit into him on that and was just like, are you out of your mind?
And this guy was in the Liberty Movement? How did he
No. This is just a friend of mine. Of mine. He's not in the Liberty Movement. I'm saying that we run that even in the Liberty Movement, we sometimes run into the problem where we have problems with explaining stuff because we just want to smack people with facts and not listen to them.
Sure.
I was using myself as an example. And I got to be honest, even though I know that I'm right, that caste systems aren't the way to go and that it's not, I didn't convince him of that. Instead, I turned him off because I got him so mad. And because I just completely ignored him, basically.
Well, what'd you say to him? I mean, how'd you respond?
You're asking me to think about something from 2013, and I've slept since then. But
Taylor,
Uh,
Taylor, I'd like to think that you have charts and diagrams to lay out what you said back.
no, actually, I don't. I don't.
Call yourself a conservative. We believed in you.
I call myself a libertarian, so that's I'm
Sir.
no, I don't walk around with a copy of Ayn Rand with me because as I told one of my social conservative friends, objectivists and libertarians, they don't always agree on stuff. Of course, that didn't matter to him, but it's. I guess here's what my question is, because y'all have been doing this a lot longer than I have. In my opinion, y'all are smarter than I am. Who is it that we should be convincing? Should we be convincing people who are interested and maybe they hadn't thought about, oh yeah, this freedom and liberty thing, that might be a good idea, or are you trying to convince people who have been in the quote unquote, been in the movement and say that they're all for freedom and liberty, and then they talk about wanting to ban Muslims or something like that? Who are you going? Who should the focus be on? Both, or is this two different fights?
I think that you have to do both. I think we need, and what we've focused on in the refinery is focusing on the people who are on our team who may have, somewhat different views, but can all benefit from thinking through an issue or talking through strategy. And so it's sort of like we're broadcasting our internal memos here and working out things live in front of people in a transparent way so that we can come to what we think is probably the best crowdsourced answer, and then spread that around for other people to consider in the way that they then go forward and talk to folks who are unengaged politically or checked out, that sort of thing. The folks for whom politics is not the obsession. We're sort of talking to the politically astute on the rightward end of the spectrum from this show's perspective. But what we're hoping to do is build this habit with people of checking the thinking of others around them in the best optimization of messaging to reach the vast majority of people who are not engaged politically the way we are. And what we do so often on the right is we talk amongst ourselves because we're the only ones listening to each other, because we speak that language. We speak the political inside language. And then when we try to say things like that to folks who have checked out of politics or who just don't have the time or they get overwhelmed, then we look like we're speaking Greek to them. And our hope is that we can learn and teach each other how to speak the language of normal people, dare I say, but the less politically engaged people, in order to show them how important things are that the government is doing and that what we want to stop and the way that political things are happening, but also so that we can become their contact, their political contact that knows things, the person they go to for advice, and begin to build those relationships with people that aren't engaged politically, so they begin to trust us and they begin to see in their lives that there are conservatives, libertarians, social conservatives, whatever, who have a lot of knowledge about things and can help them guide them through issues, but that aren't going to be the sort of people that shut them down, call them stupid, or make them, reflect on all the things the left has told them about conservatives. We want to dispel and debunk those myths, and we talk about the best way to do that while also helping people work through that in their own life and make that a priority.
Yeah, I actually like going to the mall to watch the normals. Well, they're very entertaining. They act so normal, and they don't know how abnormal that is. But another thing we try to do also, one thing I really like about the refinery is it's so diverse. We not only teach each other how to reach into vast and different sections of society, but also back into vast and different sections, and Fishy touched on this, of the conservative movement. See, the movement is so divided, and so one thing we try to do is teach the various groups in the movement to appreciate each other much more. I happen to be a born-again right-wing evangelical Christian, which means I'm the most evil person pretty much on the planet. And what I will remind Christians a lot, and I love doing this. Hey guys, when did Jesus and the apostles ever try to make non-Christians live like Christians? I'll get silence. And
I get that too.
You'd be amazed. Well, yeah, but you'd be amazed. I'll say this at meetings that are almost entirely Christian, heavy Christians. And you know what they'll say? They'll say never. And I'll say, okay, when did they ever try to co-opt government? When did they ever state as a goal, we want to take, get 51% of the vote or whatever it takes to take over government and have government reduce the choices of people who don't hold our views? When did they do that? And they go, never. And here's the big thing that shocks them. They realize, oh my gosh, by not forcing my views, by not having my views become everybody else's laws, the pressure is off. I can offer and model my views, not force them. And now I don't feel like I have failed the world when fewer people act like me.
Can I just get you to come down to Dallas to have a discussion with a couple of SoCon friends of mine, because that might, help with some stuff.
Well,
you missed the chance to have Andy and you together in Dallas this summer. We did that.
Nobody told me.
I told you. I called you. I told you I was coming. We just didn't get to hook up until it was time to leave.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
You said you told everyone but Taylor.
Shut up, Andy. Oh, my stars. You are ruining everything.
You held up this picture of him and said, avoid this person. I said, I don't even know this person, but okay. Let's do it.
Yes,
the weird thing is Dallas has millions of people, and here I'm looking all over the place trying to find you to avoid you.
No,
After a while, it was just self-defeating.
Andy, you're fired.
But here's the thing, Taylor. What people just real quick, what people find. I'm not telling Christian conservatives to can it. I'm not. I then look at everybody else, and I say, let me tell you something. Let's quit telling each other that if you want to be around me, you have to be silent about who you are. Are you gay? Great, tell me about it. Okay, are you Christian? Great, tell me about it. The moment we require others to silence who they are to be around us, we are liberal, because we are trying to control others through speech. That's where political correctness came from. Why would we want that infecting the right?
Absolutely, and there really is none of that here on the Refinery. We have we have people from pretty much every spectrum, every side of the conservative movement. We don't have any anarcho-libertarians, anarcho-capitalist libertarians. We don't have any of that right at the moment. But we do go everywhere on the spectrum. So it's something to figure out how to live up to the Reagan rule. Understand that 80% friends are 80% friends, not 20% traitors. All of those things. That's one of the big tenets of the Refinery. Something that we try and remember and bring all of these various groups together and understand. Hey, as I said before, we kind of have we've got bigger things to deal with right at this moment than deciding whether your conservative little nitpicky thing is more important than my little conservative nitpicky thing. We've got bigger issues, more important things to work on right at this moment.
And I want to remind everybody just the feeling of last week on Wednesday when we woke up knowing that we were going to have Republicans control the Senate, and how for most of us it did feel like a victory, even if it was a small victory, even if leadership didn't change and people don't have a huge amount of faith, which, I'm finding my faith is growing in some of the things that I've seen over the past few weeks. But even if those people did not feel as though they had huge amounts of ownership in that victory, that was a good feeling. Winning is nice, and it's fun, and it's really only possible when we are working together, when we are thinking about strategically how do we manage to bring all the people together to work together when they are so diverse in the right. But that's our strength. Andy talks about this all the time. That is our strength. We're not lockstep like the left. We have opinions and thoughts and differing ideas about how things should go. And it's great that we still had that through the past 2 years, and we still had a huge amount of seats swing in the Senate and a few pickups in the House. And it's so cool to be able to win and feel good about that going forward, knowing that there's still plenty of work to do, but that this team held this cycle, and that could become a habit.
I do want to ask something that happened in the chat that actually Ryan brought up, is the fact that Democrats are doing a good job at convincing non-political people that Republicans want to impeach Obama. They are? I mean, maybe in this circle, and I have kind of a liberal circle, but maybe in this circle, I don't see that. But I could be wrong.
Actually, a lot of people are very critical. They go back and forth. Is it wise? Is it unwise? Is it risky strategy? Is it not? But I personally, here in Colorado, I am leading the charge, leading the movement to impeach Joe Biden. I've had enough of him, and he needs to go down.
Yeah, I think this is an issue. This is a huge issue that we've kind of not wanted to talk about in hopes that it would go away. It did. When it came up the last time, it went away pretty quick. Sarah Palin had her whole, craziness up with oh, we got to impeach now, we got to do that. And then all of the radio show hosts came up with that and decided that, all right, now that's the issue that's going to get stuff done this week, and it didn't, and nothing happened. Thankfully, we didn't get trapped into that sinkhole before the election in November. But now we actually have a legitimate threat for impeachment getting through the House and the Senate. There's some possibility that might happen. Having that dredged back up, 2 years. 2 years, that's it. And in 2 years, we have to run for president. We have to get somebody to run for president. And if the last thing that the voters in America have to think about, the last thing on their, the taste in their mouth is Republicans trying to kick a guy out of office in his last 2 years, I don't know. It's real tough. It's a real tough sell for me.
There's very few people on the right, any leaders or representatives that I really hear talking about impeachment. You see a sound clip here and there, but it's the same sound clip. Sometimes it's 6 to 8 months old. It's from someone who's not in power, or if they are in Congress or the Senate, they don't have a big role. But the left and all their blogs and news sites keep bringing it up, like Huffington Post and Mother Jones, and they're claiming all the leadership is clamoring for impeachment, and it's not really true. But I see a lot of non-political people in my Google Plus stream and in my Facebook stream saying, this is so stupid, why are you trying to impeach him? He hasn't done anything. Republicans are just so dumb, they're trying to stop everything that he wants to do for the good of the country. And these aren't people that are really that liberal, but all they know is Jon Stewart said they're trying to impeach him and made fun of him, so hey, they're on his side. Republicans are stupid. And Fishy shared an article that I'll let her talk about that talks about how the Democrats are setting this narrative up, and it's kind of working for them. I mean, it's probably not as good as they'd hoped it would be, but it is reaching some people out there.
Right. This article is from Dave Weigel. I keep bringing Dave Weigel up. And it's called The Democrats' Impeachment Ruse, and it's at Bloomberg.com, and we'll put it in the chat for people. But basically, he's going through and saying, if you read progressive media, you would think that Republicans had bold, big, stupid plans. At Mother Jones, you can find a list of 8 conservatives who would impeach Obama over immigration. And then there's a National Memo and HuffPo where they've been talking about Charles Krauthammer saying that the insistence on executive amnesty would be an impeachable offense. And Weigel goes on to say, let's be clear, there are conservative voices asking for the president to be impeached, or at least threatened with impeachment. But when you look at the list of people that they are saying 8 conservatives, only a few are even in office. And not many, I mean, some of them have actually been removed from office and whatever. But he says, so a lot of people are talking on the left about this, but why are Democrats and progressives hyping it? Not to raise money, as they did during the midterms. They are trying, Weigel says, to discredit opposition to the executive amnesty, to make the president's actions seem less controversial by amplifying its most extreme critics. It can only last as long as the more intense members of the GOP indulge the fantasy and until the reality of financial shutdowns with Congress veto threats over the defunding of executive order emerges. So there could be a crisis, he's saying, in terms of what the president is going to do and how Congress responds. But that this is nowhere near a huge groundswell on the right. I think a lot of people realize we are 2 years out from a presidential election. I think a lot of people realize that the resources spent, political capital, on impeachment are going to be wasted instead of being turned toward how do we win and continue to win and continue to win over the long haul. Impeachment mathematically can't be achieved in this Congress either. So unless you're making a particular political statement with it, it's impossible to get a conviction, to get a removal. So I know people are passionate. I know people think they have a long list that they keep in their drawers or on their hard drives of all the things that Obama has done that are impeachable. I don't disagree with a lot of them, but when you're looking at what can I practically achieve versus the way I think the world ought to be, you really need to look at the practical, and everyone needs to reconsider that is talking about it, that it's not going to be an effective strategy, and it's going to do much more harm than good. And the folks in the middle are going to react the way that you were talking about, Brian. They're going to react with, well, they're just picking on the president. We don't own those message transmissions that Jon Stewart does have. So we're not going to be hitting those people the way that, with our messaging, the way that Jon Stewart is. And we have to acknowledge that.
Well, I mean, obviously he deserves to be impeached. I mean, that's obvious. But what I want to ask, I seriously want to ask everybody here, even hypothetically, if you could, would we really want to impeach and remove the greatest recruiting poster the Republican Party has seen in decades? Look at the House. I mean, look at. I mean, my goodness, this guy is pure gold. I'm not saying. I mean, he should still be removed because he's destroying the country. I'm just talking political gold. Would we even want him removed? I'm going to milk these next 2 years.
Yeah, and if he's going to be ruling by fiat, that's a huge thing. Thinking about culturally for years to come, when you get somebody who is going out there and making decisions, just by himself, not going through Congress, not having legislation signed, not doing the stuff that he's supposed to do, that makes people annoyed, especially on these larger issues like immigration and amnesty. Hopefully, it will create a shift in the culture. Hopefully, we can point out the stuff that's going on, and it is on us. It really is on us to show just what is going on here and just how bad this is. And that's not something that we can do if he's impeached. But again, he's not going to be impeached even if we try. So we have to deal with as Fishy said, the situation as it is, not how we want it to be. I mean, we're not going to have zombie Reagan coming in for a third term somehow. There's no way to invoke the Constitution, tap our magic wands, and have that happen. So
we can't get Zombie Coolidge to come back?
No, Zombie Coolidge is also off the table.
That guy gonna be ranked by now. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
He's remaining silent. So, sorry.
That was a good one. That was actually a pretty good one. Although what was pretty impressive was that people were shocked at how lengthy Coolidge's State of the Union addresses could be. He just didn't talk anywhere else, really.
I'm sorry, that strikes me as funny because I've sat through several of these in the past 6 years, and we got a heck of a lot more government now than we did then. Oh my.
Yeah,
I'd
but
rather
Coolidge,
sit through a long speech than deal with the kind of restrictions and impediments that the federal government inflicts on its citizens now.
remember, Coolidge was also the one, though, who met with Andrew Mellon every day to figure out where to cut the budget.
Hey guys, can I ask a question? Speaking of speeches now, and by the way, go Coolidge. I love the man. I wish he was back. Obama fatigue. Okay, now I assume somehow, at some point, Obama is going to stop trying to anger and infuriate the entire nation. I don't know that. But between the tremendous Obama fatigue that is building up, do you guys see him being able to churn things around to where his party has any chance in 2016 of retaining the presidency, retaining the White House? Will, the amnesty and stuff like this and illegals and getting will votes out of that to rescue the next person to run, especially considering the strong bench that the Republicans have to choose from this time around in candidates?
Ironically, I think that they have the same problem that we have, where they're kind of reliant on us sucking. If we do, right now we're winning just by sucking less. We're doing a better job at not doing a terrible job. So if we can continue not sucking as bad as they are, then I don't think that they really have a shot. But that's what they constantly try and do. They're trying to bait us into making mistakes, like the impeachment topic. They try and bait us into doing things that are not going to help us, like maybe ramming through some legislation. They when Obamacare got passed, since they had the compliant media, there really wasn't any this bill got passed and can you believe the fact that there were no Republicans at all that voted for it? This is absolutely insane that the liberals would push this through, would ram it through without any kind of bipartisan effort. If we tried to pull that, we aren't going to succeed. We're going to get skewered by it.
Yeah, just one thing I want people to consider too, when you're looking at the next 2 years and what the Democrats have to do. They're making a choice, and it's not a comfortable one. Do they underbus Obama in the service of the next candidate, or is he going to allow his legacy to fall by the wayside in order to promote the next person? Because you've already seen this year, we've had the media and certain other Democrats with big names attempt to distance themselves somewhat from Obama's policies. There were candidates who wouldn't run on his record this time around. They've got that decision to make, and it's going to be a difficult one. Are they going to to write off this president, this historic presidency that they were so proud of 6 years ago? Are they going to write it off in order to allow their candidates some room to move from that place where Obama has such bad approval ratings in those areas? Or are they going to attempt to double down on it and try to protect his legacy, knowing the mood and the results that just came out of this election. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch.
It really depends on the candidate. I think you're going to have someone like Liz Warren who goes out there and say, oh, well, there were things I really agreed with, Exim Bank, Obamacare, etc. But the other stuff out there, no, not 100%. Hillary Clinton, I think, is going to do something very similar. You know, Martin O'Malley, if he runs, that'll be interesting. But it really depends. I mean, if you look at the last election, at the very end, there were two candidates who either requested help from Obama or showed up with Obama, and they both lost, I think. One was Wendy Davis, she of the pink Nikes. The other one was someone in Virginia or up in the Northeast who ended up losing as well. I'm blanking on the guy's name, but I think he lost too.
Well, Obama's toxic, but I really question how much any of those candidates will be able to distance themselves from his legacy. I think it's going to be very, very difficult, and like JD said, I think it comes down to how much will we suck. And with the bench that we have, I have never seen such a strong group of possible frontrunners to run for the presidency on the right, ever. I mean, it's not just a Reagan. It's like 5 or 6 people who are really good and have some really strong stuff. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. But it's not just our presidential candidates that we have to be mindful of. It's again what we do in the House and Senate now, and what issues get brought up. You know, specifically, the impeachment thing has not. You know, we've got to avoid that at all costs. We've got to make sure that gets tamped down. But honestly, what Fishy said before about some of the, and what we talked about last week on the refinery, there does seem to be some brain power happening in the RNC. They do seem to sort of understand that, hey, these are not amateurs that we're up against, and we need to actually step up our game if we're going to survive, if we're going to be a party. So hopefully we get more voices in there that are capable messengers and people who can sell our messages, people who can sell our programs, the stuff that we want to get done going forward in over the course of this next Congress in ways that don't hurt us.
You know, I saw something interesting. I don't know how much it relates to what you're saying, but the digital guy who helped get Ted Cruz into the Senate is now going to go to work for Rand Paul. Chew on that.
Well, the other thing that's interesting about that is, and I just happen to have the Politico article in front of me, believe it or not, is this is also someone who was involved, at least his firm, was involved in leading Mitch McConnell's digital campaign, Mike Huckabee's digital efforts, and he also directed online strategy for Rick Perry's presidential bid. So you got multiple people there. I mean, that he's helped with. Some have been successful, some haven't.
Yeah, I think Rand Paul right now, I don't think there's much question that if you're looking at the positioning across the board and the draw that he would have from all sectors, if he were the candidate, especially if he had a strong running mate, any pairing of people like him and Jindal and even Ben Carson, I mean, who's pretty impressive, he's awfully new, but, Rubio, there's so many. Any pairing of those two, I look at what the Democrats can put up right now, I don't see how they pull it off. There's another thing that just happened, which is incredible. We all know about it. When's the last time you saw a political party lose a major election, get blown away like they just did, and right afterward then have the additional incredible fallout of the level we're seeing with the Jonathan Gruber tapes? You've got the signature legislation representing their party of the last 6 years. It just fell to 37% in Gallup approval as this says just eking out. I mean, this is incredible. Not only have they just been swept and blown apart, but while they're laying there in the ground, now something else comes along and is stomping on them. I have not seen a party this down in a long time. I mean, we weren't this down under Bush, and that's saying a lot.
Right, and that's why we need to put that emphasis on not on letting the liberals lose. I know Kurt Schlichter wrote a really good piece about that this week, basically saying, hey, these guys are going to they're self-destructing, so let's not get in their way. Let's try and make sure that we keep our bad choices, the things that we might want to do, but know that they're bad ideas for us. Just slow our roll and watch the Democrats melt down, because that's what they're doing. I mean, they are in the process of completely destroying themselves. So as long as we appear to be the adults in the room, which I think we are, I mean, at this point, it seems to me like we have a very solid group of people in the House and the Senate, not to mention our billion governorships across the country. We are in the adult seat. We are in the adult chair. Right now, we need to make sure that the emphasis is on the Democrats acting like whiny little babies, and make sure that Obama, in particular, gets to look like that when he starts vetoing all of the common sense legislation, which should be our favorite 2 words, or 3 words, I guess. Common sense. Common sense legislation should be our favorite 3 words in the coming Congresses, because it is just, that's what we need to put on his desk every single day. We have to have something that makes sense, that can be described to the American electorate as, hey, this makes sense, so why is this guy not signing it? Fishy made that point last week. It is a point that we need to continue to make. And then,
I just think you're right.
Everybody just sort of went silent there because, yeah.
No, I think you're right. At the same time, I think that the major issue that you run into, or at least that I have, is, are Republicans actually going to be small government folks? That's kind of the question that I have. Are they going to be the small government folks? And if they aren't going to be small government folks, then they're no different from Democrats.
But see, no. That's where I think we can.
That's where the libertarian in me comes out. Sorry.
Yes, of course. what we have to consider is that a shot, and I said this to Alan on VLR on yesterday, last night on the show on their finest hour. But if we have the desire to roll back so much of the big government, what we can do that would be interesting, and without the shock to the system, that would freak people out and turn them against it politically and lose all the popular support that we would need to do it, is considering going through and using the system to dismantle the system. And if we start pushing that narrative, if we start reforming programs instead of ripping them out right off the bat, it won't freak people out, and then we can use that reform the same way that we did in the 90s over, say, welfare reform. We can use that reform and actually get it done to begin to shrink the size of government. But it is going to be difficult to turn this big ship around on a dime. It will not happen. It has to happen gradually. And the people who are going to say, we need to cut this and cut that and cut everything right now, are going to be the voices that the left is going to amplify to scare people into into not trusting Republicans again. Oh, they just want to take away your blank, whatever it is. The messaging has to improve on our side and say, oh no, we don't want to take all this away from people that they have that helps them to do whatever they need to do, whether it's the safety net or whatever. But we want to make things better for people. We want to improve this so that those wasteful things don't happen, that fraud doesn't happen, and that it's a better, more efficient, more streamlined, more effective bit of government. And yeah, libertarians are going to balk at that concept somewhat, but if that is where they park and they stay on just, we need to rip it all out, roots and all, it's going to be so politically disastrous that we won't get here again with this opportunity for years to come.
What I found interesting, you bring that up, is I saw somebody on HuffPost call Rand Paul a moderate when it came to the environment because he was in favor of alternative energy stuff. And you read it, what he actually said, and it's like, actually, no. What he's saying here is that he's for less regulations in general, which would allow the free market to decide on alternative energy versus oil and all that stuff. That's not exactly being moderate. That's saying, hey, I'd like the market to decide, and that certainly makes a lot of sense to me.
But
And
look
that
at
was
you
based
just
off
pointed
of,
out. Oh, go ahead, JD.
I was just going to say that was based off of an interview that Rand Paul did with Bill Maher.
Yeah.
On whatever his show is. I don't get age, Real Time, which is pretty huge. I read that same article. I'm a liberal and I'm voting for Rand Paul in 2016. I think it is.
Yeah.
I was kind of mixed about it because on one hand it's nice to see that there are liberals out there that are being appealed to, that see the appeal of Rand Paul. On the other side of things, I know that people are going to share that as proof that Rand Paul is not a candidate that we should seriously consider because, look, liberals like him, and that's always a problem. But this is the important thing that we've discussed about. We talk about a lot here on the Refinery is the fact that Rand Paul went out there to Bill Maher, went and did that interview and came out with Republicans and him in particular, but Republicans in general also getting a boost because this means that, hey, we're reasonable. Hey, we aren't this specter that you paint us to be. So a really, really cool thing about that. It's just I wanted to make sure that was pointed out.
Well, one thing I was just thinking about too, along with those thoughts, is just as far as lessening regulation, allowing the free market to choose what products are best or most efficient. What if instead of saying, you know what, we need to cut, which freaks people out. They all say they don't want so much spending. They all say that they don't want so much government. But when it comes time to actually choose which programs need to be cut, they freak out. So what if instead we were to bring the federal government closer to the actual people who need the services or who use the services? So for instance, well, yeah, you could do block grants. But one thing that I've talked to some friends about is the whole federal park system. Why does the federal government need to be in control of so many lands and parks? Why can't those be turned back over to the states? If you bring them closer to the constituents, and allow the states to be in charge of something like that, and other programs too, I think that you can really eliminate unneeded positions and wasteful spending because you're 2 or 3 steps closer to the people who actually use the service.
And that's actually what in the article the guy who wrote it, whose name escapes me, H.A. Goodman, actually does say in there that, and Rand Paul believes in a safety net for less fortunate Americans. How many Republicans believe in having a safety net? He's praising Rand Paul for believing that we should have a safety net, but a smarter and a better safety net, because that's what Rand Paul said. He said we need to have a safety net. We need to make sure that it's more efficient. We need to make sure that it's a smarter safety net because there's still too many people getting through the cracks. So this revelation that, oh my gosh, Rand Paul must be a moderate because he believes in a safety net, that proves that we've done a pretty miserable job of explaining our positions. Because, yeah, Do a lot of us say that we want to have less of a welfare state? Do we want to have no welfare state? Sure, fine, whatever. We're not going to get there anytime soon. And there are people who do benefit from some of these services. We just it's a way to phrase shrinking the welfare state by making it smarter, by making it better, by improving it. We don't have to say let's shrink it, let's improve it.
Well,
And
exactly.
oh, go ahead, Corey.
No, I was just going to say exactly. I mean, I don't know a single conservative, and you guys know I know hundreds of them, who would say that we have to just completely get rid of welfare and just let people starve on the streets. I do not know anyone who believes that. So why we've got to change the way, like you're saying, JD, we have to change the way that we're phrasing this so that it's something that not only resonates with people who are not political or who are not conservative, but also in a way that conservatives can identify with.
You know, also I would have a message for libertarians, which is this. You guys believe that the free market is going to be the most compassionate provider for the most people. You believe that the smaller the government, and reducing government down to the role of simply, being no more than the referee in the game and letting free market provide all this goods and services in the game. You believe that's the way to go. Here's my message. I agree 100%. But the population does not yet. So my question is, will you help us convince more and more voters of those things while continuing to win together elections to stave off the damage that Democrats do? Because we cannot govern totally libertarian, as many of us would like to, right out of the gate, because we would quickly lose the majorities with which to complete those changes. So the biggest problem is not who's running Washington. The biggest problem is who's voting out in the 50 states. We need to move the needle of public opinion on many things like that more our way before we can govern that way. We can't govern against the will of the people.
That's so true. And when we start from the perspective of how do we take this vast electorate and message to them what we want and what we'd like to see in a way that they will not only understand but get behind and support and embrace, we have to start looking at what the messages are going to be coming from the left that are going to try to get in our way whenever we propose something. And that's something that I think Rand Paul is good at doing, and we all can learn from, regardless of where you stand on how Rand Paul's politics are and whether you're a supporter or you don't think he's right enough for you or whatever. Looking at the way he approaches things, he's anticipated the objections that different groups are going to have or that different left media spin machines are going to put out. And what he's done is he's phrased things in a positive way that makes it harder to attack from those sources. So he's not getting the kind of slams from the left that some of the other candidates are going to get. And we should be doing that and making that our habit, is anticipating what the left is going to say and phrasing it when our pitch is out there, phrasing our pitch in a way that shuts down a lot of that criticism, that makes it harder for them to spin what we say, so that our message is actually getting out. It's actually clearer because we put A, more thought into it, but B, we've anticipated the sort of objections we'll get and can speak to them. And we've developed not just answers, which leaves them the first strike, but that we come out of the gate with it framed well enough to where it's going to withstand some of those things.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you get involved in that sort of thing when you have some people say, hey, I'm not in favor of going to war against ISIS or getting involved in Iraq against ISIS, or I'm not in favor of spying on Americans, whether it's in this, these fake cell phone towers that's being used by the U.S. Marshals. How do you say that? But you're going to have people on the right who are going to sit there and say, no, this keeps us safe. This keeps us safe. This keeps us safe. You got to do this. You got to do something. This is the right thing to do. You got to do it. I'm being hyperactive for a reason on that, but I mean, how do you fight out against that?
simple as you make it that it's not the only issue that you're good on. I mean, there are plenty of ways to sell your case. You know, this is that discussion though is not something that's a primary discussion. And I don't really know that that's something that we need to get into really so much. As much as we want to talk about the broader campaign, something in the general. Because if we're talking about that in a general election, are you going to be voting for Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren because they say yay wiretaps? I mean, I don't know that anybody has successfully run a campaign on yay wiretaps.
I actually know somebody on the right, without saying names, but somebody on the right who tweeted that if it came down to Rand Paul versus Hillary Clinton, they would vote for Hillary Clinton because of her stances on stuff like wiretaps and war and stuff like that.
That's their prerogative.
Yeah, no, it is.
I'm not going to tell them that they are a bad person or a terrible conservative or anything like that.
But look at it this way too. Have we moved the culture on wiretapping and spying? We can see that people are very uncomfortable with the amount of surveillance. Businesses are losing out because the American people don't only mistrust the government anymore with our data, but businesses, because businesses, of course, are now getting into the business with the government to provide information. Your TV is spying on you, or your toaster is spying on you, whatever. I think, honestly, people in, say, the middle who haven't really thought about it, if it's presented to them, and this is also based on the caveat that nothing tragic or incredibly awful terror-wise happens in this country in the next 2 years, the conversation is better steered about, do you trust the government to have all this information about you, and by extension these companies to have all this information and keep it private about you, or do you see the effects of that mean that we're actually safer? And talking about whether it is a safety measure, if this is just the government controlling us. If we can phrase that properly and use the groundswell that we know is out there of people that mistrust the government in this area, we can make use of that and have those arguments. If someone wants to say that drone use or spying makes us safer, I would just gently bring the conversation around to how much safer do you want to be, and at the cost of how much of your freedom of movement, how many choices you can make, how many things you can do. And those are 2 years we've got to move the culture even further in the right direction on that issue.
Yeah, and again, there are other issues at stake here. It's not just this one. There are so many other ones, and if you're going to be a single issue voter like that, then I guess that's again your prerogative. But we have a lot of things on our plates right now as a country, and stuff that we need to address. That's not just the spying situation on our own citizens. It's not just the NSA. It gets beyond that, and there's plenty of big government out there. And if you think that Hillary Clinton is going to get rid of that big government in some of those other areas, I don't know. I think the EPA is probably going to be bigger with Hillary Clinton than any of our candidates, and that's going to be. And this is as a person who is a supporter of Rand. I'm voting for whoever. I'm not going to be that guy that says, oh, it's my candidate or the highway. I think that I speak for the majority, if not all of us here on the refinery. I don't know about you guys, but if my candidate doesn't win the primary, I'm still voting Republican. I mean, that's kind of what we have to do.
Well, it's like I always tell people with single-issue voting. Because I deal with a lot of single-issue voters. Because I speak to a wide variety of people at Tea Party meetings, Republican meetings, Christian meetings, and so forth. I say, look, I generally agree with you on these things. But, let's say your single issue is abortion, okay? So if it's a pro-choice candidate, you won't vote. Oh, okay, well, I'm pro-life, so I can see that. Okay, then let's say the next thing is immigration. If they would allow people to stay in any way, shape, or form, they don't have my vote. Oh, well, I feel some of that. But here's the problem. You start going through the issues. The third person, it's gun rights. The fourth person, it's interventionism. The fifth person, it's non-interventionism. The sixth person, it's corporate taxes. The seventh person, and I say, look, it's very simply this. Single issue voting only works if nobody else does it. That's your strategy. If you're a single issue voter, you have taken on a strategy that only works if everybody else doesn't do it. Is that a sound strategy?
Yeah, and that's something we've talked about here a lot. We've had that conversation plenty of times, and it's an important point to be made, and something that, again, this is us talking to the conservative movement, talking to our fellow conservatives, and saying, hey, we need to deal with that. So, all right, Taylor, I believe you're headed out. So thank you so much for being here. And for the invite and having us on at Vigilant Liberty Radio. We're just so excited to be podcasting over there now.
I hope I didn't talk too much because I do that sometimes.
Dude, this is a conversation. That's what we do here on the Refinery. So we're glad to have you.
Just listening to this, and the ideas that were discussed, whether it was Corey, whether it was Ryan, whether it was Leslie, whether it was, I'm sorry, Corey's husband, I'm blanking on your name. Andy. Well, okay, I was going to be right. Whether it was Andy, just everybody having that conversation. This is the type of thing that we want on Vigilant Liberty Radio, and so I'm very very happy to have y'all be part of this. And
awesome.
Liz says hi, by the way.
Huh. Well, we say hi back to Liz, and thank Liz Harrison, everybody over there at Vigilant Liberty Radio for having us, and it was great to have you on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks
for letting me crash the party. So, y'all have fun. Thanks again.
Thanks. That's Taylor Millard at iDesertBlog on Twitter. You guys should follow him.
EYE Desert Blog.
EYE Desert Blog on Twitter. So make sure that you go follow him and please go to vigilantlibertyradio.com. All of the it's just there's a ton of things.
.us.
I'm sorry. .us. My bad. .us. Any other plugs that you want to hit while we got you?
Listen to the first episode of the Refinery on Vigilant Liberty Radio on Thursday.
Yes.
How's
absolutely.
that for a plug?
That's a great plug. And also listen to Saturday Night Cigar Lounge this Saturday night. You guys are going to be talking about Gamergate.
Yes. I've got Milo Yiannopoulos on. We talked for actually 45 minutes yesterday. I was not expecting it to go that long. It's probably going to... Normally we go live. It's probably going to be a pre-taped show unless I just decide that I've had enough of the Dallas Stars season and I'm not going to the game on Saturday. Even if they are honoring Mike Modano for being in the Hockey Hall of Fame. I almost feel like a Jets fan right now.
Oh, you got to do that right here, right now? They're sportsing enough.
What did I do? What did I do? This is like the third time this show where I've been...
Nothing, JD. I had to say it. I had to say it.
Go away. Go to your work, whatever it is that you're going to do now. Goodbye.
Whatever it is I do. All right.
You're
Thanks,
being
guys.
thrown off the show now.
Eject button.
Yes.
I love you, JD. You know that.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one, Taylor.
Later.
Bye. That was fun. It's great to be a part of Vigilant Liberty Radio and being a part of that team. And hopefully we can get them some listens and do some really good things over there. Now that we've kind of shifted modes here, though, I want to talk. I know that this is something that we've been working on Free Radical Network has, and everybody on the Refinery really has contributed a little bit to this. But we had an article, Fishy posted it last week. We meant to talk about it on last week's Refinery, but we didn't get to it. It is a pretty huge project that we're working on, compiling. Well, Fishy, I'll let you get into it, please.
Okay, I was expecting to go to Ryan's project first.
Oh,
but-
I'm sorry. No. If you want to do that, let's go to Ryan.
Yeah, I think I'd love to talk because it kind of goes with what we just finished talking about, moving the culture. Ryan has some interesting news that he's breaking sort of on our show. Ryan from Conservative Union, and now he has an actual opportunity to talk about it. So let's let Ryan take it away.
Okay, so I've been noticing a lot lately that the country seems quite divided. In politics and religion, there seems to be a lot of name calling, a lot of fighting, a lot of infighting, and it doesn't do anyone any good. We're not going to solve any of the country's problems if we're fighting against each other and half the country thinks the other half of the country is evil and is purposefully trying to destroy things and cause people harm. So I think the way to get about it is not talking politics like we do, but to come together and to kind of change the culture of things. We can reach a lot more people through culture, through music, movies, jokes, articles, things like that, than we can through talking politics. So I thought, well, okay, what can I do to make a difference? Instead of just saying, hey, someone with musical talent, why don't you write a great song and record it? Because I don't have any musical talent. But I wanted to do something. So the idea I came up with was to start a Google Plus community. Maybe eventually it'll turn into a website, Facebook, Twitter, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly where it will go, but it's called Human Excellence. It's on Google Plus for right now, and it's a place where those of us on the conservative side can come together with people of all different political views or no views at all, people of different religions, races, everything. It's a place where we can come together and find the good, a place where we can share things that inspire and uplift us, and a place where maybe we can find common ground. For example, there's a debate on schools, public schools, private schools, charter schools, what's good. Instead of going at it from a political realm and saying, well, politically this is why this happens, this is the best way to do this has been tried, it hasn't worked. I posted a video this week of a kid, he's I think 11 years old, and he's giving a TED Talk, and it's called Why I Love Hack Schooling, and he talks about his experience in kind of homeschooling, and they do it a little bit of a different way. They have time outside, he kind of studies what he wants instead of, he kind of talks about what he wants to do and how he wants to learn instead of having a set curriculum. And I think it's awesome to have that discussion of, hey, this worked for this kid. That's pretty cool. What other ideas are out there? Maybe there's a charter school that's doing something different we can share and we can discuss. So we can discuss the pros and cons. And not that one size fits all, this needs to happen everywhere, or that the government should do this, but just celebrate individual accomplishments. Celebrate the accomplishments of people like Tesla and Jobs and Gates and all those people who saw a problem and came up with a solution, who had a great invention, and just things like that to encourage people to think, to come together, to talk, to solve problems together, not to debate. It's called Human Excellence. It is kind of in beta right now. We've shared a bunch of stuff. We have some members. We are going to be, as more people join it, we're going to be separating out into categories and things like that, but we don't have that quite yet. But I'd love for you guys to come join and share the things that inspire you and make you want to be better or go out and do something. What are some of your guys' thoughts from the stuff you've seen in there so far?
Well, first I want to ask, can I post the link in the chat? Are you ready to have people join from our chat? Okay, I will do that.
Awesome. No, I think it's really critically important that we do stuff like this. to make sure that we have that additional area of communication between us and maybe as Andy referred to them before, normal people. Have that kind of that bridge to talk about things, to look at our commonalities instead of what divides us, and maybe make some inroads through something like this, create a bridge.
Yeah, well, and going along with that, I kind of like the idea of having something that isn't political that I can go and read and look at. One of the things with Facebook is that the longer you're on it and the more things that you click and like, the more it tailors the things that show up in your news feed to the things that you click and like. So if you're like me and you follow politics, pretty soon all you ever see is political comments and articles and things like that. So I really like this idea, and I haven't had a whole lot of time to spend looking at it just yet. I'm hoping to within the next week or so. So thanks for putting this together, Ryan. I really like it.
Yeah, no problem. So speaking of bridges, Felicia shared a video in there. There was a woman who was standing on the side of a bridge. It looked like she was going to maybe jump, and a bus driver pulled over, or was at a bus stop, I'm not quite sure. But he got out, went over to her, put his arm around her, talked to her, helped her come back over the side onto the bridge, and just sat there and talked with her. And it's that type of thing that I'm looking for. It's not, oh, the government should put a bigger guardrail there so that no one can jump, or anything like that. It's not, well, the economy's so bad because of this. It's just celebrating the good. It's celebrating the little things that people do in life, and it will help hopefully encourage other people to look around and to look for opportunities to help and look for ways to help and think about others instead of thinking about themselves.
Yeah, and that's a big part. I mean, we talk about that's what conservatives actually do. If you look at how we spend our time, how we spend our money doing stuff like that, we have a pretty consistent history of being very charitable people and being, doing things that to help benefit other people. It's not just about we get portrayed as greedy, terrible people, but that's not who we are in actuality. And talking about these things, maybe explaining who we are through these things, talking about sharing these videos, and having people who are not necessarily of our ideological bent seeing that we have shared intentions would be something that helps. So yeah, I'm really happy that you started this up.
I think, like you just said, they'll see that that's not our intention. I think that'll help the discourse too. For example, there's someone we talk to all the time in politics. They're on the left, we're on the right. We argue all the time. Sometimes there's name calling. I think after being together in a community like this, sharing good things, saying, hey, this is awesome, I want good for people, we'll better be able to kind of put ourselves in their shoes, and they will be able to put themselves in our shoes and see that we really do want what's best, and hopefully that'll curb a lot of the arguments, and we'll be able to get to, okay, so instead of arguing, we both want what's best. Let's look at this. Maybe let's look at cases where this has worked or has not worked. Let's discuss why it works or does not work, and maybe we can come to a solution together instead of one side having to win.
Right, and it as I said, it undercuts the sort of the way that we've been portrayed as evil conservatives. That I mean, we've talked about this on the Refinery before. How can we have bipartisanship? How can we have that when for the past 6 years, really much longer than that, Republicans have been demonized as being evil. So I know that's one of Fishy's favorite topics. Something that she hits on a lot. Never mind then.
No. I'm sitting here because this reminded me, it jogged my memory of a piece by Corey Whalen at the Daily Caller about the messaging, the GOP messaging in 2014 wasn't progressive, because that narrative has been going out, oh, the Republicans ran on a progressive message. It was unifying, she claims. And here's this statement. The simple fact is nobody is pro-poverty. Despite the fear-mongering epidemic to the election season, people don't go to the polls harboring a nefarious desire to bankrupt their neighbors. And the truth is, Americans are simply divided in our visions for how to best achieve goals we all hold in common. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Ryan building this community, is that it's going to prove that. The people that go there are going there for the content, but what they're going to find are conservative people posting things that they wouldn't expect conservative people to post. And they'll post from the community, so they'll share from the community, which will draw more people of all stripes into it, and people will begin to see just what Corey and Ryan are both saying, that we have the same goals. We come to them mostly with different ideas of how to get them done. Like Andy's always talking about, the left wants to control people, but the people that they're controlling on the left, they have good intentions, and they think that they can use the power of government to achieve that. This is a different way to express it without getting into the argument of that. That's what I think is so beautiful.
Absolutely, it's a really good piece. I read it this morning. It's always good, again, to share stuff from our friends. Similarly, on the topic of sharing things from our friends, and also being not necessarily strictly political, Andy, I would love to hear about why the Party of Choice, a political organization, is getting into the movie review business.
Well, it's my goal within the next year to persuade all of Hollywood to vote Republican. You know, it's going well so far. We've made huge inroads. Now, I mean, here's the thing. I love movies. I'm a movie nut. I'm a movie freak. I was a movie theater manager for 7 years, managed movie theaters, and I would always be, late night building the movies up when they were still in reels and stuff like this, and we'd have to screen the movies in advance, to make sure that they were all built properly. So I would do late night movie screenings in advance of all kinds of movies, and I just have a real passion for it. I love to critique them, and one thing I found was when I would offer critiques of them and walk people through what I liked and didn't like, people were really taking notice and saying, wow, that makes a lot of, I didn't see that. Yeah, and they were really liking how I did it. That I wanted to do it because, number one, I feel confident doing it, but here's the big reason. So often when I look through these reviews, a list of reviews like at Rotten Tomatoes or somewhere, I don't see one thing that I really want to see, and that's this. I want to know if a movie is going to bash me for being a conservative or being a Christian or that kind of thing. If it's going to, or let's say it's a kid movie that's going to expose kids to content that is really, they shouldn't be exposed to. And way too often, almost entirely, the reviews never mention this. And the reason is movie reviewers are easily 90 to 95% hardcore left-wing. Okay? They really do not care. They hope it does bash, and so you'll have a movie that bashes God or bashes Christians or bashes Republicans or bashes, and you know what? They won't mention a word of it in the review. And so Republicans and Christians go to movies constantly with no idea what's coming. And so what we do with these reviews at the Party of Choice is 3 different ratings. Number 1, of course, quality. Just how good of a movie is it? Forget the content, all that. How's it made? Number 2, of course, a political review. And this is just a score. It's just a 1 through 5 score. How negative or positive is it for conservatism or Republicans or whatever. And the third thing is moral, religious. Does it have a good moral? Something like Kung Fu Panda had amazing moral, you know, whereas maybe another movie doesn't. And so we found that a lot of Christians and conservatives are frustrated with movie reviews because they don't get all that. They get a feel for the quality, but even then, if it's a liberal who is reviewing a very liberal movie and the movie is not very good, they'll still review it very highly because they want people to go see it because it pushes their agenda. So you read our reviews, hopefully you'll have some fun because I mix in a lot of my own commentary on it. I do talk politics. I like that. But you'll get an idea of what the movie is really like, and you will also get an idea of, is it going to slap you in the face for being a conservative, a Christian, or whatever?
When I saw that you guys were doing these things, first off, I need to thank you for doing them because they're awesome, and there's, there isn't somebody who's doing this regularly, and I don't know. The thing that really impressed me, the thing that I really wanted to get into, is the fact that you do the individual scoring on the various things. I don't know how much you guys are aware of what Gamergate is. I know Taylor is going to do a show, so on Saturday, definitely check that out because he'll get into exactly what Gamergate is. But suffice it to say, at the root of Gamergate is the idea that reviewers of games are letting their politics impact the scores of video games, of the grades that they're giving video games. So, if their feminism or whatever, if the game conflicts with their ideas, with their ideology, that they're going to give it a lower score or something like that. But unlike what you're doing, Andy, they aren't separating out the score. They're not showing, okay, so quality is X, so we're all of the morality, politics, everything aside, here's a score, a base score that I'm not letting I'm being completely objective here. This is what my rating is based on quality alone. And then go and give it a political rating, give it a morality grading. They aren't splitting that up, and that's something that has angered a lot of video gamers who read these reviews, who rely on these reviews, and are getting pushed out because of them. There's a lot more to the subject than that, but that is one of the base causes of this Gamergate situation. And again, please listen to Taylor's show to learn more about it because we do need to learn more about it.
I look forward to that, and like I said, it's twofold. Number one, you worry, are you going to get bashed? Or you want to know a movie that's not going to bash you, that's going to be kind of fun having them actually like you, Captain America or whatever. But secondly, you find one thing that I think that angers me just as much is, like I said, because they're liberal, if it's a liberal movie, a movie that bashes the right, they'll give it an unfairly high review. And I find that only if you are honest about where you stand, and separate that out, can they believe your quality review more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It could be the meanest thing in the world to my beliefs, and I don't care. If it's a five-star quality, I'm going to give it that. Go ahead.
No, what this reminds me of is a conversation JD and I've had for over a year, and I think we've actually dragged you into the conversations once or twice about finding conservative messaging in culture. And we were talking about television shows and things that people see and talk about at the water cooler. What are some conservative messages that you can find in, say, Breaking Bad, or in, what is it, Sex and the City? Whatever it is that's out there, being able to find conservative messaging, because we know it's there. We know Hollywood has to insert conservative themes into a lot of what they do, because otherwise people would just flat out reject it. But what you're doing is you're actually going in and scoring on that as well. And it kind of relates. Conservatives so often turn off on particular types of messaging and culture for the reasons that you're talking about. And you're allowing them to do that based on knowledge, not on ignorance. And that is, I think, a key distinction. If you don't want your values assaulted, if you don't want who you are assaulted and bashed, then it's perfectly reasonable to know that ahead of time and to avoid giving money to those people. And that's a huge thing for conservatives. That's not the same thing, and I don't want people thinking it is, the same thing as sequestering yourself and only going to conservative-based media and just supporting that without being able to use that angle to talk to other people that are not necessarily conservative about cultural issues. And you've made it very clear distinction that what you're doing is helping people choose whether to support and give money to something that is attacking them. And that is beautiful.
Well, sure, and another thing, thank you. And another thing is they, if you know, let's say you know in advance it's got some left-wing stuff, but only a couple, some, and I'm not going to go into great detail. I try to make these very brief and just mainly give you a score on the content. But if you know there's some of that in it, then when you go to the movie, that doesn't surprise you so much, and guess what? You can actually enjoy the quality more because you're not surprised at the little stabs at you. So it actually can free you up to enjoy it a lot more, and hopefully I can also write it in an entertaining fashion. I'm pretty excited about it. I'm doing the review this week for the new Hunger Games movie, and I can't wait to do that review. We'll be going to that Thursday night, and the review will be out first thing Friday.
That is sweet.
Awesome. Yeah, I know Fishy and I are both excited about that because Hunger Games is it's one of those nuggets of conservatism or something that you can find conservatism in, and actually use it in the culture in cultural conversations. You can talk about freedom. You can talk about dictators. You can talk about the rampant government that is made real in the series, and that's it's a huge tool to be able to talk to young people in particular. Hey, President Snow is only able to do what he does because he has this entire huge government behind him. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do with the third movie. Do they start going liberal with it, or do they stay with the theme? Because if you go 1 to 5 stars, 1 star being hardcore liberal, conservative hating, and 5-star being Team America, basically, or something, or Braveheart, something very conservative. Thus far, the first 2 Hunger Game movies would get a 4-star. I mean, they lean solidly anti-big government. They're very libertarian. Ayn Rand could have written these things. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the third movie. I'm actually looking forward to it.
Hunger Games, still a better love story than Atlas Shrugged. I'm sorry, that's
Yeah,
that's
I was going to say, Ayn Rand could not have written this because these characters have a little bit more depth. I'm sorry.
Oh man, now we're gonna get letters. This is terrible. I apologize. I have Atlas Shrugged around here somewhere. It's propping up a table. But it's we're good. We're good. I do really like Anthem. Anthem is a very good, very good book. I am a fan. But yeah, I can't wait to see the review for Hunger Games. Mockingjay, I guess is what it is, part 1, this Friday. That's going to be awesome, and I will be sharing that around.
Well, thank you guys for tweeting and sharing and everything, because the movie reviews are quickly becoming some of the most popular articles on our website.
Awesome. That's great, because it is something that you can share with your friends, and people will click on it who are not necessarily political junkies.
Right.
And they're going to click on it because also, if it says party of choice, that's ambiguous enough so that they can click on that, and they won't know that there's secretly conservatism going on there until they get to the Mary Landrieu jokes. Those are clear giveaways.
Was that unfair of me?
No, that was beautiful. It was beautiful. That was in the Dumb and Dumber review. which again, everybody should go read it so that you don't have to see the movie or see the movie based on Andy's review.
I think it's cool because look at here what we've been talking about. Ryan at the Conservative Union, a project to influence the culture, and then here we have Corey and Andy with these movie reviews influencing and helping people navigate the culture. It's the coolest thing. This is why I'm so stoked that not only are we partners with them, but now with Vigilant Liberty Radio carrying our show on Thursdays coming up, then we'll have more people exposed to that sort of thing from our partners.
It's pretty amazing to see where this has gone in less than a year. Because when we started this, we were just kind of like, oh, well, we'll just get together and chat. I have no idea what we're going to do with it, but turn it into something.
We got it. All we came together for is to figure out what we could do.
Yeah.
Oh, and I guess this is a good point to mention that we're 6 months in and we have 10,000 views on YouTube right now. I'm just thrilled with that. That's really cool. It's nice to say that we've got that, and we're up to 84 subscribers as of right now, and that's been growing pretty well recently. So.
And thanks everybody for sharing and commenting and having discussions on these clips that we make. It has been really neat to see some people latch onto some ideas and spread them around that started here in this little show, and it starts conversations that perpetuate and continue. And everybody has been so gracious and generous to share and like and favorite and subscribe. And yes, do more of that because absolutely it helps. Everything that we can get out and have people talking about that influences and changes the ground that we're fighting on that much quicker.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that influence and change the ground and all of that stuff, now I'm going to go into the list because I can read things. No, Fishy and I and everybody have been working on creating sort of a catalog of some awesome content. And Fishy, you wrote about it last week, or you published it last week.
Yeah, I get to publish it, but it was a joint effort. This is not, just because it has my byline doesn't mean that I done it all. We actually asked people for submissions of things that they thought were really important, timeless pieces, or things that come up again and again on a subject. And we tried to figure out the best way to share that so that other people would know what informed us, what we were reading, what we were looking at. We threw around a lot of ideas, and we eventually just built a Google document and threw links in there so that we could organize it later. And then it became time to publish this. So we've published our FRN resource list. And what we started with, and oh my gosh, I've got a cough here, just a second. Excuse me, dead air, so attractive. But what we started with is practical politics, articles that we've come up against that we thought were very informative about practically how to deal with political situations we were in over and over, issues that come up again and again. There's a ton of those. Politics in the culture, how to deal with, navigate, think about the culture and issues like that. And it's not just articles, it's videos as well, things like that, books that we've read that we liked. Teamwork among the GOP, that's been a real hot topic lately. We have some additions to that. We have Andy and Corey's wonderful abortion series, Fighting Abortion, on this list as well from the Party of Choice. And poverty, welfare, things like that. TSA, the liberal media complex, the mindset of liberals and the scandals that are out there. A good reference guide for people who need to have handy links and can find them by subject.
Yeah, it's honestly, these things are awesome bits of content. I can say that it's not an article so much as it is a resource. It's something that we have benefited so much from, and it's not just articles. It's also videos. There's some really great videos in there Andrew Breitbart talking about the liberal media complex and the liberal mindset. Videos from Remy just talking about how you can, the way that he's blended culture and politics together. All sorts of different types of content get mixed in here. We also have links to books by authors that we are good or are big fans of. People that we like a lot. We try and have a broad pool of content there that we've really used a lot, and that's another really that was the impetus for creating this list. Was we had a lot of times where we're like, oh man, there's that one article I remember, it was about this. I can't remember what the actual link was, and going through bookmarks, going through search histories, all of that stuff to try and find these things. Sometimes it's less than effective. So instead of that, we have put this together so that the next time, just for us, for our own personal use. Oh crap! What is that article that I wanted to remember? It was about that going on the Daily Show. Oh, okay, here it is. It's there. So.
And it's an ongoing project. We didn't stop when we got that together. There are new resources that we're going to be adding on a regular basis and resharing that when the new resources are added, simply because it's a work in progress. We want to give people the idea of what we're reading, what we're thinking about, what we think is an important view. And you might find differing views, contrasting views in the same section from different authors or whatever. And that's good. It's good to challenge yourself and make sure that your ideas hold up to criticism. One of the things that was interesting that I saw that Leslie had done, I believe, sharing the arguments against impeachment, for example, on Google+, and then she turned around and shared, here it is, who Andrew McCarthy, who is supporting the impeachment argument, so that you can look at both sides. We're not afraid to put contrasting or differing opinions out and have people look at those side by side. In fact, we think it makes us better thinkers and we're stronger. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything on the list is something that we agree with 100%, but it's something to make you think, something to give you the idea that you might not have thought before, or something to give you a perspective you might not have encountered. That can only make us better at conservatism and being conservatives.
I think it's important to note that most of Andrew McCarthy's articles are written after we discuss things on the refinery. So Andrew McCarthy is one of those who clearly listens to us.
We're finding more and more people are. We'll say something on the refinery, and then 4 days later it'll appear in someone's column. NRO,
Kevin steals our stuff all the time, that bastard. Kevin Williamson, man. He needs to come on the show and defend himself. Okay, that was just me trying to get
yes.
Yes, right.
We need to make sure that he's aware that that's the case. That he needs.
Actually, forget that. We can have Charlie Cook come on instead, and that's just an accent-related thing. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and if you can't do the camera, I'll suffer through it. But yeah, audio, absolutely.
We've gotten to the fangirl portion of our show.
Yeah, so it'll just be him talking for the whole time, and nobody's going to be able to get in any words because nobody wants to.
And why is that a bad thing?
I
he's
guess
saying it like it's a bad thing. I don't understand.
That's a
Two
fine.
words. Ear candy. Just saying.
Yep. Ooh, him and Mark Stein. Would that be just too much? Would it?
Yeah, I don't think we can handle that.
Would it be just sucked into the black hole of awesome? Yeah, probably. Chicks dig accents. I mean, it's just a thing. Corey, am I right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
When Mark Stein spoke at the Western Conservative Summit, oh my
Swoon!
about died. First of all, he had us laughing so hard. Our stomachs were hurting and we couldn't breathe because we were gasping. And then we didn't know if we should start crying because everything he was saying was so serious. And then we get lost in the accent and we start,
Yeah, it's just there's the brilliance, the humor, and the accent. It's like the whole package. Yeah.
Yeah, we were all putty.
Right, because he can tell you that the world is going to hell. With that accent, you're not quite ready to hide under the bed. If you're just reading him, yeah, you're digging tunnels under the bed.
Right.
But if you can hear him and see him, it's all the best.
And if you're really lucky, he'll break into a show tune.
Yeah, true.
He's no Paul Ryan, though, I do have to say.
Well,
So
yeah.
when I'm clipping this out, when this gets clipped out, what are the pictures going to be? This is just.
This could be like Tiger Beat or something. I mean.
Oh man.
Oh gosh, wouldn't it be funny to have a Tiger Beat for conservatives?
Well, yeah, that'd be great. Well, and there are some conservative elected officials that certainly would qualify. Aaron Schock, he's the guy who always has the washboard abs, the congressman who has the washboard abs. Okay, you haven't seen those pictures.
I will say that I know that there are websites that have the hottest conservative men ranked, but I miss those usually.
Yeah, those are debatable.
I'm getting a little worried about JD. I think his head is going to explode.
Yeah.
It's been a bad show for me. I get people are making fun of jets. People are talking. It's been tough. I'm hanging in there, but it's been tough.
Be strong, brother.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. But speaking of that, I think we're getting close to wrapping things up. And
when is it that Taylor said that he's going to be streaming the show on Vigilant Liberty Radio?
Thursday.
It'll be Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. It'll fit in the lineup. It should be up on their site at Vigilant Liberty Radio within a day or so.
And their website is?
It is vigilantliberadio.us.
Yes,
I got that. I listened this time. Because usually you just type VIGIL and then it populates.
That's what I do.
Yes, yeah. I get it.
Yeah, but not everybody has it already in their
exactly. That's our excuse for not having it at command. But vigilantliberadio.us, and they have podcasts of all their shows up there on Spreaker as well. You can go to Spreaker and look up Vigilant Liberty Radio, and all of the shows will populate there, and we'll start being right there among them. I'm so excited about that. That's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's our first syndication deal. We're now syndicated on VLR.
Yeah, we're just now getting to the question mark part, and then we'll get to the profit part.
Well, sure. The Koch brothers are going to be sending us a check any day. Any day. Well, do we have any more stuff to advertise and pimp? We pimped Free Radical Networks, the resource. We pimped Andy's reviews. Andy, I think you need to film the reviews. Get yourself a smoking jacket and a cigar.
Okay.
People would watch that.
What?
People would watch that.
Totally.
Actually, I would. Yeah, we need to
I would watch it. That would be cool.
Oh gosh.
Get some of that awesome Masterpiece Theater music.
Yeah.
That's watchable.
Well, he has a pretty good constitutional conservative accent.
Yeah, whatever.
Calm down, Andy. Just calm down. You're way too enthusiastic.
One of my great dreams would be to one day do a conservative not hitchhikers, a conservative Mystery Science Theater 3000 type thing, where you just watch a bad movie and critique it down in the corner the entire time and add lines. When Corey and I watch movies,
That's what you do?
Oh, I constantly insert lines. It drives her nuts, but she laughs a lot.
Well,
that doesn't surprise me even a little bit. I probably would have assumed that.
Yeah, it's mostly when I'm trying to watch a chick flick.
Sure.
And he decides to add his own commentary. It's very
Predicting
annoying.
all the tropes. Oh, here's here's the
To help.
cute part. Okay, yeah. Oh, and here's the slightly off kilter best friend. Yeah, okay.
It's bad.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you identify all the tropes.
I insert a lot of different voices, and I have a lot of fun. I was merciless with what's the vampire movies you love?
Oh, well, I don't really like the movies as much as the books. Twilight. Actually, he's really funny when he's commentating on Twilight.
Kristen Stewart, best actress ever, ever.
Oh, it's more the Jacob character that he picks on.
Which one was? Oh, is that the wolf one?
Werewolf. Oh my goodness. He was on a roll that day. I should have taped it.
I should be embarrassed that I know that. Oh well, I'm not.
Actually, speaking of conservative, that's a really conservative set of books.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, people like conservative stuff, and if you look at most stories, even though they're written by liberals and filmed by liberals, and there might be a few liberal gotcha moments in there, but the general story is the good guy wins, the bad guy gets punished. I mean, conservative values are what are the stories of the world. You know, it's what. And Andy, you've said this many times.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, so many movies are like yeah. Sorry to jabber, but yeah, I totally agree.
That's okay.
There are
What we
so
need to do.
What?
I was just going to say, what we need to do on a future episode of The Refinery is talk about some movies. I'm sure that we can do that, and it would be a good thing to do, to talk
Yeah.
about some movies and go with that. Talk about some interesting conservative movies.
You betcha. And with that, we will wrap up this episode. Is that correct, everyone? Do I have a consensus
so.
on that? All right. Watch us listen to us Thursdays on Vigilant Liberty Radio, and come join us next Tuesday at 8:30 Central for The Refinery. We will see you guys next week, and thank you so much for listening and watching and chatting and all of that. And watch the clips throughout the week.
And
liking.
and favoriting and subscribing to the YouTube
Subscribe to the
channel.
YouTube channel and
Conservative
share.
Union.
You know what you got to do, people.
Clicking the
work.
plus button, clicking the like button. Come on.
Yeah. Plus, like, reshare.
and
Okay.
dress like us.
And what?
And dress like us. And
Dress like us.
and buy action figures of us.
Yes.
We sell those too.
Absolutely. Somewhere at storewehaven'tinventedyet.com. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.